In today's episode of Akram's Ideas, I'm going to show you how to make this delicious sponge cake out of a standard cake box mix. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome. I'm Akram Tagavi-Burris, and you're watching Akram's Ideas, bringing creative and crazy ideas to life. In today's episode, we're going to be making a light and fluffy sponge cake out of a standard cake box mix. Now, the difference between a sponge cake and a regular cake, for instance, is that a sponge cake consists of a foam batter. It doesn't have any chemical leaveners in the cake mix, meaning that it relies solely on the air that you whip into the eggs to give the cake lift. The more air in the cake, the lighter the cake will be. And that also gives that sponge-like texture in the cake when you cut it open. There are different types of sponge cakes. There's your traditional sponge cake, and there's angel food cake. The main difference between the two is that angel food cake has only egg whites in it, which gives the cake a low calorie, lighter texture than the traditional sponge cake. In my example today, I'm actually going to be using Pillsbury's sugar-free cake mix because I'm making a sugar-free version of this cake, and I'll also be using the egg whites to simulate an angel food cake. Now, angel food cake traditionally is cooked in a cone-shaped type pan. However, for this bake, I'm going to be using a bundt cake pan. I don't have an angel food cake pan, and I like the look of a bundt cake pan, so that's what we're going to be using. So now that we have sort of an idea of what we're going to be doing today, let's get started with the recipe. Alright, to get started with our sponge cake recipe, you're going to need to sift your cake mix. And again, we're just using a regular yellow cake mix. I'm actually using the Pillsbury sugar-free cake mix for this recipe to make a sugar-free version of our sponge cake. Now, you're going to want to sift this a couple of times. Again, the sponge cake is an aerated cake, so the more air you have in your cake, the more lift it's going to have. So I've sifted this about 3 times before setting it aside here. And the other ingredients that you're going to need for this particular cake is 1 1/4 cup of waters, a 1/3 cup of oil, and 3 egg whites. And the idea here is that we're going to be foaming the eggs, and that's what really makes the foaming batter of a sponge cake. So to get started, we're going to start off by basically meringuing our egg whites. I'm going to throw them here into my mixer. And I'm basically taking my whisk attachment and I'm going to whisk these up until they become expanded and white. And there you can see that it's not dripping off the whisk, it's got nice stiff peaks. And at that point we can go ahead and get our egg whites off the mixer and continue with the rest of the recipe. So now we've whisked our egg whites to stiff peaks, and we're going to set that aside for right now. At this point, we're going to go ahead and mix up our cake mix. So I'm going to go ahead and gradually mix in our water. And the idea here is that we get the batter pretty much mixed up with the water and the oil. So I'm going to add the oil now. Now, as you mix, you're going to want to make sure to scoop down the sides of your bowl. And again, the more you mix, the more air that's going to go into your cake. So it's going to become a lighter and fluffier cake. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this on high for just a bit. as you can see, our cake batter is pretty well mixed. And at this point, we're going to fold in our egg whites. And we want to fold it in because we don't want to lose any of that air that's in the egg whites. So we're just going to slowly fold it into our batter here. See, we're just kind of slowly folding it in until it's all integrated. And that looks well folded here. Now you can use whatever cake pan that you want for this. Again, this is more of an angel food type sponge cake. However, I've decided to use a bundt pan. And one of the reasons is I just like the shape of the bundt pan, and it's really great when you're making a cake that doesn't necessarily need to be frosted. You can add a little Cool Whip or powdered sugar, and the bundt pan just has a nice always look to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour this in here. Now we've preheated our oven to 325, and we're going to basically bake this according to the cake box instructions. You do want, however, your sponge cake to be bouncy to the touch. So one good way to check to see if it's done is to just give it a touch with a finger, and if it kind of bounces back at you, then you know that your cake is done. You don't want to overcook this cake because it will get rid of all that lovely air and lift that we've added to the cake. So again, I'm just going to scoop out every last bit of my batter here, and there it is. I'm going to put this in the oven, and I'm going to wait about 40 minutes or so according to the cake box and check it to see if it's done. And when it's done, I'll show you how it turned out. And there you have it. This is our sponge cake taken out of our bundt cake pan, and it came out just so golden and lovely looking. It's got that great sponge look to it. And sponge texture, and as I said before, you want to get it when the cake kind of bounces back at your finger. And for me, that actually worked out exactly at 40 minutes, so it came out beautifully from our bundt cake. And now all that's left to do is give it a simple decoration, you know, serve it with berries or Cool Whip or a little powdered sugar, and treat yourself. As for me, I actually have a plan for this particular sponge cake. I'm going to be making a pineapple lush cake, and that will be another video, so be sure to check that out. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Akram's Ideas, and as always, don't forget to follow us on social media or subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.